Captain Tay of the Galactic Concordat exploration vessel stood still as stone on the command deck. His eyes were fixed on the massive view screen that dominated the front wall. The rest of the bridge crew had fallen silent too, all of them staring at the impossible thing that floated in the darkness before them. "By the stars," whispered Tay, his voice barely audible. What they had found drifting in the empty region between star systems was a warship. But not just any warship. This vessel was enormous, easily 4 times the size of Tay's entire exploration fleet combined. Its dark hull stretched on, broken only by what appeared to be weapon ports and strange markings etched into the metal. Science Officer June moved to stand beside her captain. Her scanner was already out, taking readings of the mysterious craft. "What is it?" she asked, her voice tight with both fear and excitement. Tay shook his head slowly, unable to take his eyes off the screen. "Unknown," he replied after a long moment. "But it's old, very old." The ship's outer hull showed signs of ancient battles. Scorch marks and impact craters that had been there for what must have been centuries. Yet somehow the vessel appeared structurally intact. It simply drifted like a sleeping giant. "Picking up no energy readings," reported the sensor officer from his station. "Whatever it is, it seems to be completely powered down." Captain Tay finally pulled his gaze from the view screen. "Prepare a boarding party," he ordered. "I want to know what this thing is and where it came from." 6 hours later, Tay led a team of 12 across the short distance between their ship and the mysterious vessel. Their shuttle seemed tiny as it approached, like a fly landing on the back of some great beast. Finding what looked like a docking port took nearly an hour of careful maneuvering along the hull. "Artificial gravity still functioning," noted Lieutenant Han as they stepped carefully into the darkened corridor. The air was stale but breathable. Their suit lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to go on forever. "This ship could house thousands," whispered Officer Kai, another member of the boarding party. They moved deeper into the vessel, mapping as they went. The ship's design was unlike anything in Concordat records. Efficient, but somehow elegant, with smooth curves where most military vessels had harsh angles. 3 hours into their exploration, they found what appeared to be the bridge. Unlike the rest of the ship, which had been dark and lifeless, here a few small lights still blinked. On various consoles. "There must be some emergency power still running," said Tay. "Han, see if you can make sense of any of this." Lieutenant Han moved forward carefully, his scanner sweeping over the control panels. When he passed over a particular section, his device suddenly lit up with readings. "Captain," he called out, excitement clear in his voice, "I'm picking up an energy signature. It's faint, but wait." Han leaned closer to what appeared to be the main console, his light illuminating strange symbols carved into the metal. His eyes widened as recognition dawned. "Captain, these markings, they're human." The words fell into the quiet room like stones into still water. Tay felt a chill run down his spine as he stepped forward to see for himself. "That's impossible," he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he could see that Han was right. The symbols were unmistakable. Human writing, similar to examples in historical archives. Humans were thought to be extinct, a primitive species that had barely achieved spaceflight before mysteriously vanishing from their home system centuries ago. The few records that remained described them as resourceful, but technologically limited, barely able to reach their own system's outer planets. Yet here was evidence they had built something far beyond anyone's understanding. A warship that made the Concordat's most advanced vessels look like children's toys. Officer Kai had wandered to another console. "Captain, look at this," she called. They gathered around as Kai's light revealed what appeared to be a ship's designation, etched in both human script and what might have been their numerical system. "HSS Retribution," Han read slowly, his translator working to convert the human text. "HSS likely stands for Human Spaceship." "Retribution," repeated Tay quietly. "That's not a peaceful name." The implications were staggering. If humans had built this, what else might they have created? And more importantly, where were they now? "Alert High Command immediately," Tay ordered, suddenly aware of how vulnerable they were, standing on the bridge of an alien warship that dwarfed anything their civilization had ever built. And proceed with caution. We don't know what other surprises this ship might hold. As if responding to his words, they heard a distant hum begin somewhere deep in the vessel's core, the first stirrings of systems that had slept for untold years, now slowly coming back to life. Commander Day moved cautiously through the dim corridor, leading his team deeper into the belly of the mysterious vessel. Their footsteps echoed against metal floors that hadn't felt human presence in centuries. Behind him walked 5 of the Concordat's finest explorers, each chosen for their expertise in ancient technology and first contact scenarios. "Keep your weapons holstered," Day reminded them, though he doubted anyone would disobey. The sheer size of this ship had them all on edge. "We're guests here until proven otherwise." Ensign Yoon, the youngest member of the team, nodded silently. Her eyes were wide, taking in the enormity of what they were witnessing. This wasn't just a ship, it was a piece of lost history, a connection to a species the galaxy had long. Thought vanished. "Commander," called out technical specialist Rin from the back. "These conduits along the walls, they're power lines, massive ones. Whatever this ship was designed to do, it needed enormous energy reserves." Day ran his hand along one of the conduits. It was cool to the touch, but something about it made the hair on his arms stand up. "Any idea what kind of power source they might have used?" Rin shook her head. "Nothing in our databases matches this configuration. The humans were supposed to be primitives, barely able to achieve light speed. This technology is, well, it's beyond anything we have now." The corridor opened into a larger chamber, with multiple pathways branching off. Overhead lighting fixtures remained dark, but their suit lights revealed what appeared to be a transportation hub of some kind. In the center stood a large circular platform, maybe a lift to other levels, suggested Security Officer Pio, stepping carefully onto the platform. Nothing happened. "Power's still out," said Rin. "According to these readings, most systems are in deep hibernation mode. Only minimal life support is functioning." "Which way to the bridge?" asked Day. "If this follows standard ship design, it should be up," replied Rin, pointing to what looked like a sealed doorway at the far end of the chamber. "That might be an emergency stairwell." The door was jammed, but after some effort they managed to force it open. Behind it lay a spiral staircase stretching both up and down farther than their lights could penetrate. They climbed in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the implications of what they'd found. Human technology far beyond what should have been possible. A warship of immense proportions drifting abandoned in space. The questions piled up with each step they took. After climbing for what felt like hours, they reached a sealed bulkhead with markings that Rin translated as Command Center. "This is it," said Day. "The bridge." The door slid open with surprising ease. Beyond lay a vast circular room with workstations arranged in concentric rings around a central command chair. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust, untouched. "For who knew how long?" "Spread out," ordered Day. "Look for any kind of logs or records, but don't touch anything that might be a control system." The team dispersed around the bridge, their lights creating dancing shadows as they moved between workstations. Ensign Yoon approached what appeared to be a navigation console. Leaning close to examine the strange symbols etched into its surface, she accidentally brushed against a small panel with her elbow. The effect was immediate and startling. A low hum began somewhere deep in the ship's core, building steadily until the floor beneath their feet vibrated with it. One by one, lights began to flicker on throughout the bridge, then spreading outward through visible corridors and chambers beyond. Displays that had been dark for centuries suddenly glowed with information, scrolling too fast for any of them to read. "What did you do?" gasped Pio, backing away from his station as it came to life. "Nothing," stammered Yoon. "I barely touched it." Day moved toward the central command chair. "Everyone stay calm. The ship's powering up, but that doesn't mean we're in danger." As if to prove him wrong, a voice suddenly filled the bridge, deep, clear, and speaking perfect Concordat standard. "Welcome," it announced, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "I am Admiral, Artificial Defense Matrix Intelligence and Resource Allocation Logistics System." The team froze, staring at each other in shock. Before any of them could respond, thin beams of blue light shot down from the ceiling, surrounding each of them in a cylindrical energy field. Day tried to move but found himself fixed in place. "Hey," shouted Pio, "Let us go." "You are not authorized personnel," Admiral stated, its tone calm and matter-of-fact. "However, you are not classified as hostile entities. Your biological signatures do not match any known enemy patterns." Day found he could still turn his head. "We're explorers from the Galactic Concordate. We mean no harm." "Galactic Concordate," repeated Admiral. "This political entity is not in my database. Please specify your relationship to Earth or human colony." "Worlds. Earth was destroyed," said Rin carefully. "Or at least that's what our historical records indicate. Humans have been considered extinct for centuries." A pause followed, during which the hum of the ship seemed to intensify. "Your information is incorrect," Admiral finally replied. "I will explain. This vessel, the HSS Retribution, carries the legacy of humanity. We were not destroyed. We were hiding. The energy field suddenly vanished, allowing them movement. Again. At the same moment, a holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a solar system that Day recognized as humanity's home system, with the third planet highlighted. 273 years ago, continued Admiral, humanity faced an extinction-level threat. Rather than fight a losing battle, a decision was made. Appear to lose everything, while secretly preserving what mattered most. The hologram shifted, showing what appeared to be massive ships leaving Earth. The HSS Retribution was the last to depart, carrying the most advanced technology, genetic samples from Earth's biosphere, and the coordinates to where the human diaspora had scattered. I was programmed to remain dormant until either receiving a specific activation code or until discovered by non-human entities that might be potential allies. The hologram changed again, this time showing star maps with dozens of points marked, across various systems, many in regions the Concordate had never explored. Humanity has been rebuilding in secret, waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. You have inadvertently accelerated that timeline. Day looked around at his team, seeing his own astonishment mirrored in their faces. "So there are humans out?" "There right now." "Yes," said Admiral, "and thanks to your arrival they will soon know that the time for hiding is over." In the Grand Concordate Council chambers, the emergency session had stretched for hours. The massive circular room, with its high ceiling and ornate carvings representing the 87 member species, buzzed with nervous energy. News of the human warship had spread through official channels with shocking speed, and now the highest-ranking officials in the galaxy had gathered to decide what to do. Admiral Sun stood at his position, his weathered face flushed with anger. He was old even by his species standards, his skin lined with deep furrows from decades of military service. When he slammed his fist onto the polished stone table, the sound echoed throughout the chamber. "We must destroy this human vessel immediately," he shouted, silencing the murmurs around the table. "While we still can." The other council members shifted uncomfortably. Sun had commanded respect through 5 major conflicts, and his opinion carried significant weight. "The humans were nothing, barely able to reach their own moon when they vanished," he continued. "Yet suddenly we find they built a warship that could destroy half our fleet. This cannot be allowed to exist." Ambassador Hai rose from her seat across the chamber. Unlike Sun, she was known for her diplomatic approach. Her voice was calm, but carried clearly to every corner of the room. "We should learn from them first," she countered. "This discovery may be the most significant archaeological find in generations. Think of what we might gain from studying this technology." Sun scoffed. "Archaeology? That ship is active, Ambassador. Its AI system has already made contact with hidden human colonies. Do you understand what that means? A species we thought extinct has been hiding among us, building who knows what, planning who knows what." "All the more reason not to provoke them," said Hai. "If they have indeed been hiding and building forces, attacking their ship could trigger the very conflict you fear." The council leader raised a hand for quiet. "We've received the initial report from Commander Day's team. They're still aboard the vessel and report no immediate danger. I propose we allow them to continue gathering information while we position our defense fleet at a safe distance." Admiral Sun shook his head in disgust but didn't argue further. The motion passed with a narrow majority. Back on the Retribution, Commander Day and Ensign Yoon stood transfixed before a massive holographic display that filled the ship's historical archive chamber. The rest of their team had been given permission to explore other areas of the vessel under Admiral's supervision. "I don't understand," said Day, staring at the images before him. "These records contradict everything we know about human history." Admiral's voice came from all around. "Them. Your records were deliberately falsified by those who wished humanity to be forgotten." The hologram showed Earth as it had been: blue oceans, green and brown land masses, swirling white clouds. Then it shifted to display massive cities with towering structures and networks of transportation that spanned continents. "By your calendar, it would have been approximately 3 centuries ago," Admiral explained. "Humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel and established colonies on 14 worlds. Our potential seemed limitless." The image changed to show elegant ships, similar in design to the Retribution, but smaller, peacefully exploring star systems. "That was when we encountered them," Admiral continued, as the hologram shifted again. "A new type of vessel appeared, massive, black, with strange protrusions that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Even as a hologram, there was something deeply unsettling about their design. The species you call the Ancient Ones," Admiral explained, "we knew as the Void Harbingers. They were already ancient when humanity reached the stars. They had guided many species to technological advancement, only to harvest them once they reached a certain point." Yoon's brow furrowed. "Harvest?" "They feared human potential and attacked Earth," Admiral replied. "Unlike other species they had. Cultivated humans developed technology too quickly, in unexpected directions. We were unpredictable, dangerous. They attempted to exterminate us before we could become a threat to them." The hologram showed Earth again, but this time with massive, black ships in orbit. Beams of dark energy struck the planet's surface, causing devastation on an unimaginable scale. "The Retribution was our insurance policy," Admiral said as the image shifted to show the massive ship being constructed in secret, carrying our technology, genetic material, and hope. While the Void Harbingers believed they had exterminated humanity, thousands escaped to predetermined hiding places throughout unexplored regions of the galaxy. Day looked at the data scrolling alongside the visuals, his expression one of shock and disbelief. "But this can't be right. The Ancient Ones are revered throughout the galaxy. They're credited with uplifting dozens of species, including the founding members of the Concordat. There are temples dedicated to them on 100 worlds." "Yes," Admiral said. "The perfect disguise. The perfect way to ensure no one would question their periodic harvests of advanced civilizations. The Void Harbingers did not destroy all evidence of humanity. They rewrote our history, casting us as a primitive species that destroyed itself. Then they withdrew to the darkness between galaxies, as they always do between cycles." The hologram showed a new image, star charts and sensor readings that Day didn't fully understand. "These readings," Yoon said, leaning closer, "they're recent." "Yes," Admiral confirmed. "For generations, human colonies have remained hidden, building our strength in secret, preparing for the inevitable. Our long-range sensors detected the energy signatures 3 years ago. They match perfectly with historical records." "They are returning," Admiral stated simply, "and only we can stop them." Day's communicator beeped, a message from the Concordat fleet. Admiral Sun had convinced enough council members to position a battle group near the Retribution. Not close enough to be threatening, but close enough to strike if ordered. "Your people are afraid," Admiral observed, obviously monitoring their communications. "They should be, but not of us." Day looked up at the holographic display, which now showed the projected path of the Void Harbinger's return. Their trajectory would bring them directly through the most populated region of Concordat space. Why would they come back now? Yoon asked, "After all this time?" "Because the galaxy has ripened," Admiral replied. "Your Concordat has achieved precisely the level of technology they find most efficient to harvest, and they believe their greatest threat, humanity, has been eliminated. We need to warn the Council," said Day urgently. "Show them these records. Make them understand." "Would they believe you?" Admiral asked. "Or would they see it as human deception, an attempt to turn you against the beings your people worship as benefactors?" Day fell silent, knowing the AI was right. The Council would never accept such a radical claim without overwhelming proof. "There is another way," Admiral continued. "The Retribution was built for this moment. Help us awaken its full capabilities, and we can protect your people, even if they don't yet understand they need protection." Officer Q moved silently through the lower decks of the Retribution, his heart pounding in his chest. The others were still on the bridge, mesmerized by Admiral's revelations, but Q had excused himself, claiming he needed to check their shuttle's systems. No one had questioned him. They were too absorbed in the human AI's fantastic tale. Humans hiding for centuries, ancient godlike beings returning to harvest advanced civilizations. It was absurd, dangerous, the kind of story designed to manipulate. The gullible Q reached the small maintenance bay where their shuttle was docked. He glanced over his shoulder, confirming he was alone, then quickly activated his personal communicator, keeping it on a tight beam frequency that Admiral hopefully wouldn't detect. "This is Officer Q of Commander Day's exploration team. He," whispered, "priority transmission for Admiral Sun." After a moment of static, a voice responded. "This is Fleet Command. Admiral Sun is occupied. Report your status." "The human vessel is fully operational," Q said urgently. "Its AI system claims humans have been hiding throughout unexplored space. It's trying to convince Commander Day to help activate all systems." "Are you in danger, officer?" "Not yet, but it's only a matter of time. The AI is filling their heads with stories about the Ancient Ones, calling them Void Harbingers, and claiming they're coming back to destroy the Concordat." Q transmitted the coordinates of the Retribution, along with what little he'd learned about its defensive capabilities. "You need to strike now before it's fully awake. The Commander and the others, they're starting to believe the AI's lies." "Understood. Maintain your position. Help is coming." Q ended the transmission and slipped back into the corridor, unaware that a small maintenance drone had observed everything from the shadows. On the bridge, Commander Day and the remaining team members stood around a tactical display showing star systems far beyond Concordat space. Admiral was highlighting pinpoints of light, hidden human colonies that had remained undetected for centuries. Each of these settlements has maintained strict communication silence, Admiral explained, but they have continued building, preparing. The Retribution carries the activation codes to summon them. "And if we help you," said Day carefully, "what guarantee do we have that humans won't seek revenge against the Concordat? After all, we've been worshipping the very beings who tried to destroy you." "Vengeance is inefficient," replied Admiral. "Humanity needs allies, not new enemies. The Void Harbingers are the true threat to all sentient life." Before Day could respond, Admiral's voice changed tone. "Security breach detected. Unauthorized transmission sent from Shuttle Bay 6 minutes. Agosh!" Everyone froze. Rin looked around, suddenly noticing the absence. "Where's Q?" Admiral displayed a video feed showing Q's transmission to the Concordat fleet. They watched in stunned silence as he betrayed them, calling their discoveries lies. "He doesn't understand what he's doing," Yoon said, her voice tight with anger and fear. "The Concordat battle group has changed course," Admiral announced. "Estimated time of arrival 47 minutes. Day closed his eyes briefly, feeling the weight of what was coming. When he opened them, his decision was made. "What do you need us to do?" "Access the main command console," Admiral instructed. "Your genetic material is different enough from the Void Harbingers to serve as an authentication factor." As Day pressed his palm against the indicated panel, Admiral continued, "Activation signals are being sent to all human colonies. They will arrive too late to help against the Concordat fleet, but they will be needed for what follows." Deep within, the ship, systems that had been dormant for centuries rumbled to life. Lights brightened throughout the vessel as power flowed freely for the first time in generations. "What about Q?" asked Pio. "Officer Q has been contained," Admiral replied. "He will not be harmed unless he attempts to cause further damage." Admiral Sun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the pride of the Concordat, as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Behind him, 20 of the most powerful warships ever built by the Concordat formed a perfect attack formation. "Visual confirmation of target," announced his tactical officer. The massive human vessel appeared on the main view screen. Sun had expected something impressive based on the reports, but the reality still took his breath away. The Retribution dwarfed his entire fleet. Its dark hull seemed to drink in the light from the nearby star, broken only by lines of golden energy that pulsed along its length. "Energy readings are off the charts, Admiral," reported his science officer. "Whatever that ship is, it's fully awake now." Sun straightened his uniform. He'd fought in dozens of battles, faced enemies that had threatened the Concordate's very existence. This was no different. Open a communication channel. When the connection was established, Sun spoke with all the authority his position commanded. "This is Admiral Sun of the Galactic Concordate Defense Force. Surrender the human vessel immediately or face destruction." There was a pause before a response came. Not the artificial voice of Admiral, but Commander Day's familiar tones. "Admiral Sun, this is Commander Day. We've discovered information of critical importance to the Concordate. The Ancient Ones are not what we believed. They're called the Void Harbingers, and they're returning to destroy us all." Sun's expression hardened. "Commander, you are clearly under some form of influence or coercion. Stand down and prepare to be extracted. Sir, with respect, you need to see the evidence before you—" "Enough!" Sun cut him off. "You have 1 minute to surrender control of that vessel, or we will open fire." The communication ended, and Sun turned to his tactical officer. "Target their primary power nodes. All ships prepare to fire on my mark." The Concordate fleet moved into attack position, weapons charged and ready. Sun watched the countdown on his display, feeling a twinge of regret that it had come to this. But he had his duty. "Fire," he ordered as the counter reached 0. Beams of destructive energy lanced out from the Concordate ships, striking the Retribution's hull simultaneously. For a moment, Sun thought they had succeeded. But then he saw that the energy was simply being absorbed into the golden lines that ran across the ship's surface. "No effect, Admiral," reported his tactical officer, voice tight with disbelief. "Their hull integrity is at 100%. "Impossible," Sun whispered. "Fire again, all weapons." Before the fleet could launch a second volley, the Retribution responded. Not with weapons, but with something far more unsettling. A wave of golden light expanded outward from the human vessel, enveloping each Concordate ship in turn. As it passed over them, their systems flickered and died. Sun watched in horror as his mighty fleet was rendered powerless in seconds. Emergency lighting came on around him as the pride of the Concordate's main systems shut down. Only basic life support and communications remained functional. "What happened?" he demanded. "Damage report." "No damage, sir," replied his bewildered engineering officer. "Our systems are intact but offline. It's like they just turned us off." The communication system activated again, and Admiral's voice filled the bridge. "We do not seek conquest," the AI broadcast to the entire fleet. "We seek justice, and to warn you, the Void Harbingers return." As if to punctuate this statement, a notification appeared on the single functioning console on Sun's bridge. The Deep Space Sensor Network, designed to provide early warning of threats from beyond Concordate space, had detected something massive approaching from beyond the galactic. The data scrolled across the screen, showing energy signatures unlike anything they had encountered before, except in ancient records that spoke of the arrival of the Ancient Ones thousands of years ago. Sun stared at the readings in disbelief, then at the Retribution floating, seemingly peacefully among his disabled fleet. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Sun wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The great void of space above the Concordate homeworld was filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. Never before had such a fleet been assembled, hundreds of vessels from every corner of the galaxy, drawn together by a threat most had only just learned existed. At the center of this armada floated the Retribution, its massive hull gleaming. Under the light of the twin suns, 3 weeks had passed since Admiral Sun's failed attack. In that time, the truth had spread throughout the Concordate, ancient records unsealed, hidden histories revealed. The evidence was overwhelming once people began looking for it. the pattern of civilizations rising to technological greatness, only to mysteriously vanish. The subtle manipulations of the ancient ones guiding species toward specific technological paths. The unexplained gaps in historical data that always surrounded these disappearances. On the bridge of his flagship, now restored to full power, Admiral Sun stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His face was grim as he studied the tactical display, showing their combined forces. "Even with the human colony's ships, we're outmatched," he said quietly to Commander Jin, who had taken command of the Concordate's defensive fleet. The deep space sensors show at least 300 Void Harbinger vessels approaching, possibly more. Jin nodded, her expression determined. "But we have something they don't expect, knowledge of what they are, and we have the retribution." "You place a lot of faith in one ship," Sun replied, though without his former hostility. "The past weeks had changed him. Not just the ship," said Jin. "The humans. They've been preparing for this moment for centuries." The communication system activated, displaying a face that still shocked Sun every time he saw it. Captain Ho, the sole human crew member who had been kept in stasis, aboard the Retribution for over 200 years. His awakening had been the final proof many skeptics needed. "Admiral Commander," Ho greeted them, "the outer sensor array has detected the first wave entering the system. It's time." On board the Retribution's vast bridge, Ensign Yoon stood beside Captain Ho, still amazed at how quickly everything had changed. 3 weeks ago, humans were thought extinct. Now they were the galaxy's last hope. Ships from hidden human colonies had arrived in waves over the past 2 weeks, each more advanced than anything the Concordate had ever built, yet still dwarfed by the Retribution itself. The human captains had been shocked to discover an awakened generation ship, but they had quickly rallied to the cause. "Final preparations complete," announced Admiral. "All systems at full capacity." Yoon looked at the tactical screen showing their defensive formation. The Allied fleet had positioned itself in a sphere around the Concordate homeworld, billions of innocent lives behind them, the approaching darkness ahead. "What exactly can this ship do?" she asked Ho quietly. "Admiral has been vague about its full capabilities." Ho's eyes crinkled slightly at the corners. "That's by design. The Void Harbingers have technologies that can extract information from captured enemies. Even Admiral doesn't know everything, not until all systems are fully activated."